Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. Tonight, in about 3.5 hours from now, if you're watching live, it's 2:30 out on the West Coast right now. Tonight at 6 p.m. West Coast time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, TFR, the 3-hour weekly show. That will be happening tonight, but just wanted to cover the news headlines before then, because again, I like the radio show to just mostly be time for the callers to phone in. But top headlines today. Liz Cheney voted out of power, and CNN earlier today had this headline: a major turning point in U.S. political history. And the point they're making is her father, Dick Cheney, who was the vice president to George W. Bush and had been an advisor in a number of administrations. The point they're making is one of the Cheneys, Dick Cheney or her, has been in a very powerful position in Washington, D.C. since the 1970s, and today is the first time that's not true since the 1970s. And so you think about that, the 1970s, that's, from 1971 to this year's 50 years later. So about 50 years ago is when their power in D.C. began, and they're saying today it ended, so we'll talk more about that. Again, it's a number-driven ritual. The mainstream media wants you to know that it only took 16 minutes to remove her from power. 16 minutes. We'll get to why. You probably already know why if you're a veteran of the work and you remember that this story began on 5/3. Or you know what? Here, we'll just get to why right now. Again, if you think this is a coincidence, you're in the wrong place. And again, it's the phrase, don't cast your pearls before swine, so we can just get that whole thing over with right now. If you think this is a coincidence, realize you are swine and you are welcome to leave. If you want to know how the world actually operates every single day and how it's being manipulated and why by a simple code of letters and numbers and mathematics, why it's done every single day this way, again, then you'll learn something new. You've probably heard the term the cabal before. The Cabal, which comes from Kabbalah, which has a text called the Book of Formation or the Sefer Yetzirah, where it says on the first page, God created the world with numbers, letters, and words. And again, there's a lot of spiritual beliefs that tie in with God being a mathematician. The most popular spiritual text in the United States of America, where I live, and this is true all over the world, the most popular spiritual text here is the Holy Bible. That Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are all based in, the Abrahamic religions. But the fourth book of that Bible is titled Numbers. But anyway, again, you guys, Liz Cheney ousted in 16 minutes. What we've always taught is the most pure cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. Liz Cheney equals 53, which is the 16th prime. Remember the year of Super Bowl 53? Only 2 teams in the league with a 53 connection. Los Angeles Patriots. We predicted the Patriots beat Los Angeles in the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 53 before the season began, and there were 16 points scored in that game. The term GOAT equals 16, and they started saying Brady was as good as the GOAT, Michael Jordan, who'd also won 6 championships. And now Brady surpassed him this year, Super Bowl 55, winning his 7th over the Chiefs, which again we had right before the season began. But Liz Cheney, 53, the 16th prime. When you just run the alphabetic order in reverse, the name Liz Cheney equals 136. That's the 16th triangular number. And again, we've talked about these patterns so many times, how this all comes together. So they have to make a headline about how she was ousted in 16 minutes when her name is 53, the 16th prime. And this all started on May 3rd, 5/3, when she went after Donald Trump. We're going to talk about how that fits in with today. But again, just such perfect rituals. And today is May 12th, the 132nd day of the year. There's 132 rooms in the White House. And this is about her being removed from power because she was critical of Trump. And they're saying that's what's going on in the Republican Party right now. They're dividing. Some are getting behind Trump. Some are going away from him. But today, she was removed from the power establishment for going against Trump. This is the narrative, right? And we've said it looks pretty clear that Trump will be running in the next election. And thinking about what age he will start his campaign, and I'll have to start thinking more about things like that. He's going to turn 75 on June 14th. Remember, Trump has the same birthday as the flag. But anyway, 132 rooms at the White House. This has to do with the White House, the president. Remember, United States of America equals 132. And where the White House is, the capital of the United States of America, where it is in D.C., which was land given from a man named Francis Pope that was once known as Rome on the Potomac. Rome, the Catholic Church. Notice Catholic Church is 132, and remember Roman Catholics 132. And something we've talked about for years is how the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt established the Bavarian Illuminati May 1st, 1776, a span of 132 days from the United States being named that on September 9th, 1776. If you didn't know that, the United States of America was named the United States of America on September 9th, 1776. And again, in the most pure cipher, just the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. If you write out the United States of America, it equals 99, right? 99. And then the other big thing about that is if you use the most simple cipher, the alphabetic order, and you just write out 13, it equals 99. And you think about the United States, the 13 colonies it began with, the 13 stripes, the 13 years of school, K to 12. Remember, just with the most simple cipher, USA is 41, which is the 13th prime number. And again, USA, the acronym for the nation. But what we talk about are the base ciphers, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, the reverse alphabetic order, and the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. And there's a lot to say about all those numbers, but just realize when you write out United States of America, it's got the 132 in it, as well as the 84. Remember, the Catholic Church is 132, the Jesuit order is 132, Jesuit alone's 80, or I'm sorry, I misspoke. The Catholic Church is 84, the Jesuit order is 84, Jesuit alone is 84, Superior General, which is the title of the leader of the Jesuits, is 84. Last year, the Superior General died at age 84. Pope Francis is 84 right now. He's the first ever Jesuit Pope, but he was born December 17th, 1936, date with 84 numerology. Again, you think about Orwell's book, 1984. But United States of America has that 84 in it and that 132. And again, if you just put a the on the front of it, which is interesting because you see the 261? The cornerstone for Washington, D.C. was laid September 18th, the 261st day of the year, 1793, when the cornerstone was laid for D.C. on the 261st day of the year. Ginsburg died on September 18th last year on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and she was replaced by the Catholic. And, of course, the Supreme Court is all Catholic and Jewish, as it often has been. And it just reminds that the Jesuits were Jews who converted to Catholics, and D.C.'s the Jesuit land where the Jesuits have been longer than the federal government. And again, you think about 10 Commandments, courthouses, separation of church and state, but at the same time, all the clear symbolism, even the language of Rome, and then just, the Roman architecture everywhere. But notice also the United States of America has that 144. That's a special number, 144. Jesuit order is 144. Remember, President Biden from Jesuit Scranton is 144, and they simulated on June 12th at Jesuit Georgetown 144 days before the November 3rd election. Trump losing, refusing to step down, and leading to violence and chaos, and Biden winning. And then they compared it to the election of Rutherford B. Hayes from 144 years earlier, 1876. He was the 19th president. Biden became the 46th. They said the Rutherford B. Hayes election was the most chaotic before this year's, and chaos is 46 and 19. Again, alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. The ones that we've studied since 2013. The reverse ciphers we've been paying attention to since the end of 2016 when they really came to our attention. But again, it just... If your mind actually works, you realize all of this is undeniable. It just leads in what... I mean, with regards to Jesuit order on 144, you guys, Donald Trump's Jesuit educated. He went to Fordham. And again, he posed with Pope Francis at the Vatican on May 24th, 2017, shortly after becoming president, on the 144th day of the year. It's the picture where, here, I just, for people who figure out this picture or don't know about it, you got to see it. Donald Trump, Vatican, Pope Francis. Because, you know what? I'll just let you look at it before I even say what I always say. But I always think of the same thing every time I look at this image. Let me see. Is there a way to make it bigger? If I could just make it so big. Here we go. There, that's better. So, I mean, again, it's like Donald Trump has this sinister smile, like wicked smile, like, look at him. I mean, just painted orange, goofy as ever, kind of like Lurch. Again, I guess I'm putting my thoughts on it, but just like overgrown Oompa Loompa, this little Jesuit spawn. And but then look at Pope Francis. What's wrong with Pope Francis? You know, he is looking to a different place than Donald Trump is. They're looking at a different spot. But look at his facial expression. And then I don't know what to say about Melania. And with regards to Ivanka, I need to make a much bigger point about this. But remember, Ivanka's 58 in the most simple cipher, like Trump announced he was running for president in 2015 from the 58-story Trump Tower. He went on to win the 58th U.S. presidential election. Hillary put out the book What Happened about why she lost, which equals 58 in the most pure cipher. A lot of 58 rituals with Trump, but Liz Cheney is getting the boot today for going against Trump on a date with 58 numerology, May 12th, 2021. 5 plus 12 plus 20 plus 21, 58. And remember, in the most pure cipher, where what happens 58, so is secret society, so is Freemasonry. And in Freemasonry, you must be a man, but you can be part of the Order of the Eastern Star for women. It's like Freemasonry for women. And of course, Star is 58 and Stars is 58. And, but again, the 58th election was won by a man in an election where it was believed the woman was going to win, and Freemasonry's for men, all men. So all men winners through the first 58 elections. True into the 59th as well, and I'll remind people, Freemasonry is 59. Remember, modern Freemasonry was established in 1717 on June 24th in the banking district of London by the Jesuits, a Jesuit-controlled territory just like D.C., two of the independent city-states of the world, the third being the Vatican. But Freemasonry was started in 1717. 59 is the 17th prime number. 59 years later, the United States of America started in 1776. And remember what we just talked about with Bo, Obama's dog. Bo equals 17. Bo died on May 8th, 58, Freemasonry 58. And Bo died 277 days from Obama's 59th birthday. 277 is the 59th prime, 59 is the 17th prime. And remember, when you write out Independence Day in the base ciphers, it's got that 277. And again, in the first chapter of my book, I teach these four base ciphers and how they all relate, how they're all overlap, how they're all used ritualistically. And notice how Independence Day, of course, is 74, like holiday, like 7-4, what we celebrate Independence Day as in the U.S., but the 70. This year, the federal government set a goal of 70% of the nation to be vaccinated against coronavirus by Independence Day. Notice, in the same cipher as Independence Day, look at COVID vaccine, 70. And, of course, coronavirus. And we talk all about the use of 70 and all the other numbers you see on the screen with coronavirus used again and again. Just so many rituals. They simulated the coronavirus pandemic at CladeX on May 15th, 2018, exactly 666 days before the pandemic was declared. And that was 2 years to the day of Operation Warp Speed being declared, May 15th, 2020. That date's written 15/5. When Gavin Newsom was the first governor to lock down his state, he said 56% of people in California will get coronavirus in 8 weeks. 56% in 8 weeks, which is 56 days. Gavin Newsom equals 56, as does Society of Jesus. He's a Jesuit. Anthony Fauci's 56. He's a Jesuit. Trump's Jesuit education began in 64 at Fordham, 56 years before 2020. Just so many rituals with the same numbers all year. But coronavirus 56, The NBA suspended its season due to coronavirus on March 11th, the 142nd day of the season, and then they resumed it a span of 142 days later. And with regards to the 56, Rudy Gobert, who it was blamed on, who plays for the Utah Jazz, the only team that equals 113 like coronavirus pandemic, and it was declared 11/3, and then the NBA was suspended that day. But when they came back, we saw that 56 days after Rudy Gobert's birthday, there was a game where the Jazz were major underdogs. It paid about 3-1 that night to bet on Utah. Utah won the game 56 days after Rudy Gobert's birthday, making the Jazz 5-6 in the time of the NBA bubble. And again, for all the people who want to continue to sleep on this knowledge, again, this knowledge helps us win at all the major sports, helps us win with stocks, crypto, helps us win in all these areas where we study and apply the knowledge. And again, it's not just that people are following me and learning from me. There's people who've now learned and set up their own Patreon pages and spam all day on my page to, come to theirs. They're doing it too. They're doing it even better. I mean, people are learning this knowledge and applying it. That's proof that this is real knowledge that works in the world. It's not 2013 anymore. I'm not the only person in the world presenting this now. Now there's quite a few people that, YouTube deletes their channels and squashes them. It's apparent they don't want this information out there. But again, the people who've taken the time to learn this knowledge have benefited in all sorts of ways. And again, it's not just about winning money, but there's no other knowledge in the truth community that can allow you to take advantage of the rigged financial system and set you free from the news and see why they mock you every day with the numbers. The only other person in the truth community who I can say is teaching real knowledge that's setting people free that I'm aware of. There's probably others. And understand, this person I'm about to give credit to, I don't even really care for this person. Again, I think they're as much a part of the problem as they are the solution, but who that person is the former Satanist Mark Passio, who now teaches about what was wrong with him going into the Satanic Church, why he left, and why natural law is the thing that people really need to learn. Universal laws that are spiritual, that are undeniable, that everybody should be able to agree to, and if everybody lived that way, the world would be a better place. But the thing is, when you watch Mark Passio teach it, you see the hypocrisy in his own words, and then you're reminded, he's like, okay, he told you why he joined the Satanic Church. He was pretty much a hot mess, and I think he still is. But, and a lot of us are, especially intelligent people, because this world will drive you insane. I mean, I'd say in some ways, I guess I'm a hot mess. Who else works for 8 years straight trying to prove their point when they already learned in the 10 plus years prior that people didn't want to know anything about anything? It's just, I've seen the whole time that if somebody doesn't have a breakthrough in humanity, we're going to a really bad place. And that's why in 2013, I stopped what I was doing, went full-time on this, and said by the time 2020 comes around, if we're not going to wake, it's going to be ugly. And in 2015, I was really making the push. I was saying, let's invest some money in a city like Detroit. Let's buy up Detroit, and let's make it Truth Seekerville. Let's, instead of having green grass in the front yard and competing with who has the greenest grass and the neatest yard, how about who's growing the best, produce in their little lot? I realize, if you have a 20-foot by 20-foot area of dirt, that's not a lot, but you can grow a lot of food in there. You can grow a lot of abundant food, and even if you're eating it every day, some big leafy greens, kale, these types of things, you won't be able to keep up with, the output of your garden. It will feed you. And, just imagine that. Imagine if that was the world, if everybody had a 20 by 20 foot lot of dirt to manage to make sure that their food was growing the best. There wasn't some pest isn't eating up all your plants. You're just taking care of your plants. You're making sure your food source is good. If your responsibility in life was to manage a 20 by 20 foot, and realize you could do a lot more than this. Look at farmers who do way more than that. But I'm just saying, if this was the one responsibility you had in life, because again, compare that to this world. What are your responsibilities right now in life? You got to probably pay all sorts of people's bills besides your own if you got children. If you got family that are relying on you, you got to help out all sorts of people. You got to drive through traffic. You got to ride subways. Some of you have to fly all over, take the train all over, drive all over all town all day because you're a salesman, or appointments all day. These are the things you have to do all day. And then you got to feed yourself and, take care of yourself. Imagine our ancestors who had a plot of dirt where they lived, where their food was, their livelihood was. And they just managed that right there in front of them each day. There wasn't any of this driving all over town and delivering this. I mean, again, we're told that that is the old way that people did things, and that's because they were dumber and less educated and they didn't have the great technology. They were essentially like Amish people. But we see now. Now we've been brought into this world where we are totally reliant on a system. And we see how easily this system can manipulate us. And we're going to talk more about that a lot in this video. But again, I'm just so sick of people like coming here and leaving the dumb comments. And, just if you check out the latest Amazon review on my book, who left the review, it's just like, is this a serious critique? He's like, it's really interesting, but because I'm not an expert with statistics, I can't tell if it's all a coincidence. It's just like, God. And then they leave 2 stars too, and it doesn't sound like they were really upset with the book, but it's like just like a dumb comment and then 2 stars. And realize the book still has a 5-star review, but just again, don't cast your pearls before swine. It's like reading what swine have to say. It's like, okay, if you have a brain, I lay down in the beginning how improbable it is, the alignments of very simple things. Again. If I have time, I'm going to show a video supposedly debunking my work, and I'm going to show how the video actually proves my work beyond a shadow of a doubt if the person wasn't an idiot. But again, the point I've always made from the beginning, right here, gospel, parables, Messiah, cross, Jesus. I've always made this same point. This is the thing that made me realize that there's no way this is a coincidence, especially when I add to the list. But again, Gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, is about pairing words together that have the same numerical value, but also have a meaningful relationship. And again, people will always try to troll this work and just put things together that have the same numerical value and no relationship. It's like, okay, yeah, that's not ever how this has been. This has always been looking at very logical things and saying, okay, the true meaning of Gematria, which is much older than English, which dates back to Hebrew, which is thousands of years older, and who knows how far back this practice really goes, all the way back to Babylon and Sumer, the birthplace of language. This goes all the way back there. This has been around for a long time, and it's spiritual. So you're looking at, in this English-speaking world, the predominant religion, Christianity, you're looking at the leading spiritual figure, and you're going, okay, Jesus equals 74, so does cross, Jesus on the cross, who's considered Messiah in Christianity. That's what sets it apart from Judaism, and that's why the Jews essentially had him crucified, is because they thought he was blasphemous of their religion, claiming to be the Messiah when they didn't think that he was. This is the division within the Abrahamic religions. And then parables is the way Jesus spoke. It's understood that he spoke in parables, essentially riddles. And gospel is the story of Jesus, the beginning books of the New Testament that are the story of Jesus. If you get your red letter Bibles, it's the gospel, and then the words of Jesus are in red. But all of these things are clearly related. And then you just start to think about other things, The word holiday, which comes from holy day. We obviously have one for Jesus, right? We celebrate on Christmas, even though that's the language... or not, Christmas is the birthday of Mithras, which is the old religion of Rome prior to Christianity. And there's a lot more with the Mithras and Jesus thing, or Mithra and Jesus thing, but Mithraism was the religion. But then even the word itself, Gematria, this spiritual practice of coding numbers into words, is 74, and so is English, and so is Jewish. And again, it comes from Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah. And again, Big Al gave this book to a man in Arizona who thanked him for handing it to him, because just when he read the first chapter, because if you haven't read my book, I begin with 74, like I almost always do, because there's just so much to say about 74, way more than this. But he gave it to a man who said his father was really into Kabbalah, and he had a desk where he studied, and he said above the desk were the numbers 7 and 4. And of course, in Hebrew, this number has to do with the tetragrammaton, which is God. And so he said, wow. Just reading this and learning this about the English language, it just gave him this greater insight to this mystery that his dad was always studying, that he said his dad didn't really share much with him about. But for all the people who again, come here and say this is all a coincidence, or you can't tell, you need an expert to tell you if that's a coincidence, again, if we get through the whole thing as I intend to here, I will again mathematically prove that this is way beyond coincidence. It's like winning the lottery multiple times in your lifetime, the big one. But again, coming back to just gematria, in these base ciphers, alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. There's 4 of them. In 2 of those 4 ciphers, the name Liz Cheney clearly connects to the number 16. In the most pure cipher, it's 53, the 16th prime. And then with the reverse alphabetic order, it's 136, the 16th triangular number. These are improbable things that we document every single day. And I realize that, just most people, again, I don't mean to put people down, but it's just like, you take a computer from 20 years ago, it has way less processing power than computers that exist today. Well, what I've noticed and what I've thought about the world for a long time is that, like, if brains are like computers, some people's brains are just at a way higher processing level than others. And I've met people whose minds are way higher than mine. But then there's so many people who I look at and I'm just like, wow, I don't know what this person's doing wrong, man, because I don't feel like I come through from anything special in the United States of America, but whatever everybody else is doing, it seems to be really bad because people's minds are definitely not working. This stuff should not be so hard to grasp. There shouldn't be somebody that feels like they need an expert to hold their hand and tell them if it's all a coincidence. And again, I think it's probably a big part of their mind, like the cognitive dissonance is pushing that they want it to be a coincidence because they don't want to think the world is this controlled. And it clearly is. And people need to get that through their thick skulls because this control is taking us to a very bad place, which is what people like myself have been saying since 9/11/2001. And I think even long before that, honestly. I think I was about 7 years old when I realized we were going to a really bad place. And maybe that's why we're watching movies like Terminator. But again, this story today is about how a Cheney has been in power in the Republican Party from the 1970s until today. Today it ends. And notice, her father, Dick Cheney, today's 102 days after his birthday, and Cheney's 102, right? And we know who 102 is all about. The Jesuits. The Jesuits really like their 102, their 201. And who else is going to be a big player in D.C., outside of some Jesuit pawns? But I notice it's 14 weeks and 4 days. Amazing. But again, just the ritual. And I'll tell you what's weird in my life, Truth Seeker, is last night, one of my last thoughts before I went to bed is I need to figure out more about 16. There's more to 16 than I'm acknowledging. And one of that I've talked about for years, in the most pure cipher, pi is 16. Pi is 16. And remember, in the most simple cipher, again, understand this is way beyond coincidence. Gematria means geometry and language. And again, when you write out 22 divided by 7, you get 314, like 3.14 pi. And that is the mathematical shorthand to pi. 22 divided by 7, the most common mathematical shorthand to get to pi. And it's coded right into the language. And again, pi is for the 360 degrees of the circle, and 360 is 227, like 22 divided by 7. In the most simple cipher, mathematics is 112, like 1 plus 1 equals 2. Like, why mathematics has all the importance that it does and the spiritual understanding, because numbers are perfect how it's believed that God is. That's why the 4th book of the Bible is Numbers. That's why they do things in number ritual. I mean, you just think about all the psychological reasons to do numbers. You can be very organized working by a numerical code, but they're also motivating. I mean, when you track your progress with things, it keeps you motivated. Oh, wow, I'm trying to lose weight. Wow, I lost 2 pounds today. Wow, I must have done, I got to eat what I did today because I lost 3 pounds. I lost another 3 pounds on that diet. Here, let me try even doing this. Wow, look at that, I lost 4 pounds. We keep track of numbers, just numbers. People who aren't good with numbers don't really do well in this world. They get taken advantage of left and right. They can't make good financial decisions. It's a financial, monetary-based world, which is all numbers. And people are like, I don't know why they'd be doing things with numbers. It's because you don't even have a brain. You're like, I forget, I haven't watched Wizard of Oz in so many years. Which character doesn't have the brain? Is it Tin Man? We got a society of Tin Men. And women. Both. But anyway, again, just these perfect rituals, you guys. And we're always talking about how D.C.'s controlled by the Catholic Church, owned by the Catholic Church since the Act of 1871, probably since the... I think that's what they did, you guys, because you think about it. Okay, a man of the church loaned the land that became the federal government, essentially. He gave it to him, right? He gave it to him. Rome on the Potomac, owned by Francis Pope, became the land that became Washington, D.C. And then, and remember, then they bring over the French Freemason Les Enfants from France, where the Jesuits were created in Paris, France, and then the first Jesuit Pope is Francis. Remember, Isus Hominum Salvator 266, that's the Jesuit motto. Pope Francis, the 266th Pope, the first Jesuit who spoke in D.C. on September 23rd, the 266th day of the year, in 2015, the year he spoke there. But anyway, today, Liz Cheney being removed for going against Trump on a 58-date numerology when Trump won the 58th election and announced he was running from the 58-story Trump Tower. Then it's the 132nd day of the year. There's 132 rooms in the White House, going with United States of America, Catholic Church, Roman Catholic. The whole election at number 46 was just a big Catholic ritual. But, yeah. And then I just have the note up here again. From the establishment of the Bavarian Illuminati to the naming of the United States of America, May 1st, 1776 to September 9th was a span of 132 days. But I was saying, that they gave the land for D.C., and then in 1871, after the Civil War, they essentially took it back over. It became an independent city-state. It became a corporation. And I forgot to make that point. In the base ciphers, again, the United States of America is 144. Jesuit order is 144. And remember, Jesuit is 84, like United States of America is 84. And consider DC's had diplomatic relations with the Vatican since 1984. Anthony Fauci, the Jesuit's been the head of NIH since 84. But again, when you write out the Catholic Church, it's 84. And when you write out the Jesuit order, it's 84. So, and just realize the magic of the. I noticed this when I first began Gematria. I said, look at that. Just the most simple word that's used the most times has this 33 encoded in it. Number of all this spiritual significance, Gematria, this spiritual practice. And again, I highly doubt that's an accident in light of everything else we know about the language. So, I feel bad for the people who do think it's a coincidence. But once again, the whole Liz Cheney thing started on May 3rd. Go back and watch our video from May 3rd. Every headline that day was 53, including Liz Cheney. There was about 1 million of them that day. And again, just the way it would work out. A Cheney isn't in power in D.C. for the first time since the 70s is the story. And it happens to be 102 days after Dick Cheney's birthday. That reminds me, with all the goat stuff going on, where did I write it at? Here, that reminds me. Okay, we know that all this goat stuff is going on this year, right? Here, let me show you something. With the two most simple ciphers, in case you weren't here. I put this information out for free on my Gematria Effect Sports channel before the Super Bowl is played to help out some people. I gave them just the big last final clue. But GOAT equals 43, which stands for greatest of all time, which equals 188. And remember, Super Bowl 55 with 43-year-old Brady, it was 188 days after his birthday. And notice 188. But also GOAT 43, the numerology of GOAT 43 is 4 plus 3 is 7. Brady wins his 7th Super Bowl. In 21, and everybody's been picking up the 7s this year, Saturn equals 21. Saturn has 7 rings. Brady gets his 7th ring. Saban's 7th championship. Baffert's 7th Kentucky Derby. Texas has 7 teams in March Madness, wins their championship with Baylor, the Texas school. And that was the first time in 73 years Baylor had been in the championship. There's a lot more to it. 73 is the 21st prime. But with regards to the whole goat thing, remember the goat is associated with the Baphomet. And when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Baphomet's got the 136. You see also the 37? Notice Liz Cheney is 136 and 37, also 53 like we talked about. But Baphomet, the satanic symbol that's goat. And again, did you notice goat was also 16? Like when Brady scored 16 points in Super Bowl 50, well, there were 16 points scored in the Super Bowl. 13-3 was the score. Brady was 41 years old, the 13th prime. They beat LA. LA's 13-41. And football's got the 133, like a 13-3 score. It's got the 43 in it as well. Remember, American football is credited to Walter Camp, who went to Yale. And George W. Bush went to Yale. So did his father, H.W., who are both presidents. The 43rd vice president, number 43. Jeb Bush was the 43rd governor in Florida, which is 43. And George W. Bush's election came down to Florida for him to become 43. Well, remember, GOAT's also 43. Dick Cheney was his vice president. And it's been this year of GOAT rituals. I think this is one with his daughter. You know, he's essentially a GOAT. He was in D.C. for decades, having a big influence in terms of the overall narrative, advising all these presidents. Like Henry Kissinger, Henry Kissinger seems to be, I don't know, beyond human. I don't know what he is. You know, what do they say? The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to convince the world he didn't exist. Has anyone looked at Henry Kissinger? I mean, this guy's as evil as they come. He's just been talking about how people are useless leaders and we need to depopulate, and who cares if we start a war there? Those people aren't worth anything anyway. Henry Kissinger's been advising. That's just what amazes me about the American people. They even put out these stories about the Henry Kissinger types who say these things that are crazy, but they're the advisors, and then they're there for all these decades, and American people just look at this and be like, well, I guess that's the thing about American people. They don't pay attention to anything, just entertainment and consumerism. And while this information is being put out there, nobody's really taking it in. It's just like, look, they're telling you how evil this country is and its government and the way they look at the world. And I mean, if that's the advisor, if that's the expert for everybody and that's the way he thinks, well, what more do you need to know here, America? Take a look around. Does it look like good people are managing us? Again, you guys, humanity is not supposed to be this way. There's not supposed to be a thing such as governments. There's supposed to be tribes. Tribes are supposed to exist. That's why 90% of people are followers. They're supposed to follow a tribe that probably has 30 or 50 people in it. Big tribe might have several hundred, not 300 and some million people. But, you know, if you have the right leader, and realize, I imagine if you're the leader of a tribe of 300, you're going to be a damn good leader. Because somebody else is going to step up and replace you if they're in the group and they see that you're fucking it up. If you're leading your people to your demise and that's, you know, written in stone, you can do something about that leader. If you're bigger and stronger and smarter and savvier, you can become the leader. And the problem is the people who become the leaders in this world, I think they did it by being the dirtiest and nastiest and dishonest and probably the most backstabbing and slitting throats in the night and putting poison in the birthday cake they offered to make you. This type of way. I think that's how these people who run the world got to be the top. But that's what people need to see, is that's who runs the world right now. Devils. Evil people. To remind about Dick Cheney not being in power, again, right from your mainstream media, go back and look it up. It's all facts. It was written about in the mainstream that Halliburton had just purchased, again, Dick Cheney ran the company Halliburton, and then he maintained, he was like one of the main shareholders in Halliburton when he became vice president with Bush. But Halliburton made tons of money off the wars that started not long after. I mean, there was a conflict of interest in a big way. But even before the Gulf oil spill, it was reported that Halliburton bought an oil cleanup company 3 days before the Gulf oil spill that happened to get the huge government contract for the cleanup. So Halliburton raked in the profits off the Gulf oil spill, which means Dick Cheney. And I just love the picture Google these pictures here are from Google. You know, just the big, how do you say it? My mouth's not working. Big smirk, I guess. It's not the way I want to say it, but he's a smirking schmuck is what I want to say. But yeah, man, just 102 days after his birthday. And you see how his birthday is 130? We were just talking about this with Washington, D.C. the other night. Washington equals 130 on the 130th day of the year. The basketball team in D.C. with Russell Westbrook, who just went there recently, set the all-time triple-double record on the 130th day of the year. Dick Cheney's birthday is 1/30, and he was in Washington running the show in a lot of ways for decades. But with regards to Westbrook, on the 130th day of the year. It was also 139 days after the season began on December 22nd that he set the triple-double record after tying it just 2 days before that on May 8th, 5-8. He tied the record with Oscar Robertson, and then he passed it 2 days later. But over the years, we've talked about triple-double, 139, 58 a number of times. And again, for anyone who wants to go back and see just the things that have been talked about, do it while you still can, because Google is actively taking away posts from this, my old page, my old blog, freetofindtruth.blogspot.com. But if you go here and just search things like triple-double and 58, you'll see that we've been talking about the same patterns over and over. This post right here is from, and these aren't in chronological order, you just have to scroll through, but this one's from June 5th, 2017. And, just talking about triple-double, the significance of it, the death of King James at age 58, same things I talked about a million times. And, yeah, I see some other things looking back there that I could point out now, but there's a lot of posts like this. There's a lot of posts on here, which is the same patterns over the years. So the search on this blog definitely used to work better, but if you scroll through things, you'll find what you're looking for. And there's a lot. But before Google started to actively delete things on this blog, like some of the best posts have been removed from this blog, which is very frustrating. But there was over 30,000 posts on that blog before the deletion started. So a lot of information is still there. Good resource if you're looking for meaning in a number. If you just search the number, scroll through what comes up, you'll probably learn a lot. And you can do the same on my new site too, GematriaEffect.News. I don't know how many posts this site has on it now, but I've been using it since the start of 2020 because I maxed out the old site. Okay, so anyway, we covered the Cheneys really well, how it even ties in with the whole goat thing. Yale, remember the killing in the Goatville neighborhood by Yale the night before Brady won the Super Bowl at age 43? Because again, American football is credited to Yale, and Yale's 43. Football's 43, Florida's 43, Goat's 43. But, and the whole Brady thing started in the time of Bush, right after 9/11 and the Patriot Act and the time of number 43. But just to remind you as well, the father, H.W., he was the 41st president, member of Skull and Bones like his son. He was also the 43rd vice president like his son became the 43rd. And notice, Skull and Bones is 41 in the most pure cipher. Yale's 43 in the most simple. And same patterns again and again. Yale, though, compare Yale to Goat. It's the exact same in all four ciphers. And leading up to Brady winning the rigged Super Bowl, I mean, we talked about Yale and football and Florida and 43 like a million times from the time that he went down there up to then. And again, just for the night before the Super Bowl, for it to be in the headlines that there was a killing of an Asian person, and this is right before all the Asian discrimination too, but it was an Asian person in the Goatville neighborhood. And don't forget, by how understanding that, we saw that Asian would win the Masters this year, and we were able to pin down that Matsuyama had a great narrative before the tournament began. After day one, he looked great. After day two, he looked almost a lock. After day three, it was lock city. And again, all along the way, I was telling people, yeah, you better be stacking your chips on Matsuyama. I mean, we killed the Masters again, and that was the worst we'd done in 3 years. And the reason it was the worst we'd done in 3 years is because the 2 years prior to that, I had the Masters winner dead on before the tournament even began. Matsuyama I had with a group of, a few other Asian golfers, and maybe watch out for Jordan Spieth. But again, golf has big odds, so if you cover your bases and then build as it gets better, things get pretty. But this stuff is all rigged, you guys. It's all by this code. And remember, Matsuyama won on April 11th in a huge tribute to history. People can't even appreciate this unless we go through the full thing. But you see how Matsuyama's 114? Notice World War's 114. Notice History's 114. And notice Pearl Harbor's 114. And again, he won the tournament on 11/4, 45 days after his birthday, like how World War II ended in 45 and Green Jacket equals 45 in the most pure cipher. You see? But remember, the last time he won a tournament was on the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima, and then the other Japanese golfer who we thought had a good narrative, he won the PGA Championship And it started on the bombing of Hiroshima, August 6th, and it ended on the bombing of Nagasaki, August 9th. He won that tournament as a Japanese American. And then, they were the two Japanese golfers that had good odds. And it was good that Matsuyama won because he paid a lot more. He paid 40 to 1 if you bet on him before the tournament began. And you see how World War is also 102? When, what's his name? Not Matsuyama. The guy who's actually higher ranked that's Japanese American, Morikawa, that's his name, Colin Morikawa. He won the PGA Championship. It was the 102nd PGA Championship all time. And again, it started on August 6th, Hiroshima bombing date, ended on August 9th, Nagasaki bombing day. And again, it's so frustrating that the peon masses want to continue to deny this work and think this is stupid because we continue to do this year after year, show how they sync up sports with news. How we knew LeBron would come back from down 3-1 to win on the real King James's birthday. How we knew LeBron was going to win on that King James' birthday from the start of that season, before he was even down 3-1. You got 40 to 1 odds once he was down 3-1. But again, they just do the same stuff year after year. They sync up sports and history and news. It's just all such obvious ritual. A mass shooting of Asians in Georgia, where the Masters is, weeks before the Masters, where the first Japanese player ever goes on to win it. And remember how much more there is to this just besides the date in 114. It was the Emperor's 712th day of his age, like Pearl Harbor happened 7/12 in the majority of the world, and Tiger Woods is half Asian, and they said he got in the terrible wreck at 7:12 a.m. on the 54th day of the year when Tiger Woods is 54 forwards and backwards in L.A. 135 days before the start of the NBA Finals. I'll remind you that Bavaria is 54 and 135, because again, the Bavarian Illuminati was started by the Jesuits, and again, right before the American Revolution, and the Jesuits have been here the whole time. And I mean, isn't it just like a really easy thing to follow? Okay, Bavarian Illuminati started by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, the American Revolution in Jesuitville, America, and Jesuitville is all over the world, by the way, you guys. The Jesuits are the New World Order. The Catholic Church, their military, essentially their crusades of the world are where we are. That's why we're on their calendar. I mean, it should be obvious who runs the show. Why are we on the Catholic Church's calendar? Because they rule the world. But you know what else I got to say about Cheney? That's what the history books say. They say Cheney was really the man on 9/11 more so than Bush. Cheney was really the man calling the shots on 9/11. I never really thought about this, I don't think, until right now, about Cheney's connection to 102. They say the 9/11 attack lasted 102 minutes. Remember, it was simulated on June 1st, 2001 with Project Amalgam Virgo, which equals 119, like the date 11/9, September 11th. But it was simulated 102 days before the attack. And again, 102 is this big number with the Jesuits. Art of Wars 102, World Wars 102. Spanish flu came out of World War I, 1918, 102 years before the pandemic in 2020. And just right on down the line, the American Civil War began on the 102nd day of the year. Don't forget Al-Qaeda equals 102. But Cheney, Mr. 102, now out of power 102 days after his 80th birthday. Oh, man. We'll get to more of this. We haven't even got to the ransomware thing. I'm taking forever here. Okay. But as for the ransom thing, with regards to Dick Cheney being 80 years old right now, notice the way the stories are. You got, Cheney is the top story. Then you got 56 killed in Gaza from the attacks that began May 10th, the date with 56 numerology in Jesuit-controlled Israel, where Society of Jesus is 56. Again, they need to have the nation of the false ones from Revelation to bring about their prophecy, which the church is built upon. Again, you can see the entire motivation for everything that's going on if you just think about it clearly. Okay, the Catholic Church clearly rules the world. How could I deny that? We're on their calendar. We're speaking their language. They're all over the world. Look at D.C. with all of its Roman symbolism. I mean, just everything. It's just so obvious when you just open your eyes and look. Again, for all the people who think the Jews run the world, it's an incorrect statement. They are being used, most Jewish people. Realize there's people of all religions that participate in this agenda. But the majority of Jewish people are innocent, like the majority of Christian people, like the majority of Muslims. You have to look at who's really responsible. And again, the Jesuits were Jews who converted to Catholicism. And I've had this theory for a long time. Is it possible that that's what happened with the Jesuits? And was it a power move to gain the control of the Catholic Church and its military and everything else it's got? Anyway. Look at this, you guys. Cyber attack has gematria of 188, right? And we're going to go back and look. Here's a post from May of two. This post is from Saturday, May 13th, 2017. We're just going to go back and look at exactly what I was covering in May of 2017, which was the last time a ransomware attack was this big in the news. 4 years later in the same month. And remember, May 1st is when the Bavarian Illuminati was established. But look at this. Cyber attack has the 188 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. Bavarian Illuminati has the gematria of 188 when you run the alphabetic order forwards. Also gematria of 80 when you just use the most pure cipher. And the word ransom is 80. And today's headline is that we're all paying ransom for the Colonial Pipeline attack, which was essentially simulated at Cyber Polygon put on by the Jesuit Klaus Schwab on July 8th, 2020. 7-8, like Jesuit, like order out of chaos. And again, the Bavarian Illuminati was created by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, whose name equals 51, why he established it on May 1st. Conspiracy, Adam Weishaupt, both 51 in the most pure cipher. But anyway, the word ransom is also 80. Again, the front page news. The Cheneys, with Dick Cheney, 80 years old right now. This ransom thing. And then, the whole Israel thing. Again, the point is it all fits in through this Jesuit narrative. But look at this. Ransomware. Gematria 127, right? Bavarian Illuminati, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, is also 127. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse with the rules of numerology, Bavarian Illuminati is 127. Just like ransomware, and the attack was May 7th, Friday, May 7th, the 127th day of the year. Now, when I was going back over my notes from 2017, I noticed that the hero was a then 22-year-old malware tech whose name was 188. And I did point out in the post at the time the 177 and 201 encoding in his name. It's funny, when I went back and looked at my old post, I'd actually been noticing things throughout time about these numbers and the Jesuits, and I documented it here and there. But when Event 201 came around, because of all that I'd covered and because I hadn't covered those numbers for a while, I forgot how 201 fit in with the Jesuits. I had to rediscover that in 2020. But notice, Marcus Hutchins was the hero, and his name is the exact same as the Jesuit order in 3 out of the 4 ciphers, right? And again, the Jesuits, the Bavarian Illuminati, May, the same thing happening 4 years later, the 4th book of the Bible, Numbers. 4 represents foundation. These people operate by a numerical code, a time-based code. You think of time in 4s, the 4 seasons. But again, just the same patterns throughout history. And think about how this is called the Colonial Pipeline, right? Reminds you of the 13 colonies, and it began in Alabama, and Alabama's 13 in the most pure cipher. Alabama is also 158, like how the Jesuits were created on August 15th in Paris, France. Remember, Paris, France is 56 in the most pure cipher, and also 187. Notice Washington, D.C. is the same thing. Washington, D.C., 56, 187. Society of Jesus, same ciphers, 56, 187. But again, just the same patterns throughout history, numbers used systematically, and with regards to the Bavarian Illuminati, it was started on May 1st, 1776 with 13 families, right? 13 has to do with the moon. The moon's on 13-month cycles, 19-year cycles as well. And don't forget, moon's got that 57, like how this Colonial Pipeline attack happened on May 7th, 19 days before May 26th, the day we're watching out for potential chaos. And that's interesting because Colonial Pipeline, again, is 265. 26/5 is May 26th. That'll be 19 days after the hack. And again, chaos is 19. Fuel is 19. But again, Alabama equals 13. The Colonial Pipeline, the 13 colonies, the 13 stripes, doing rituals to disrupt the world's economy by the numbers, tying in with Agenda 21. Again, you guys, Agenda 21 is where all this comes together. The Jesuit plan from Brazil from the 90s about, making changes that will bring about less consumption, less travel, less carbon emissions. All of these things going on this year are part of this. All of a sudden, there's a shortage of gasoline drivers when a lot of people have been put out of work. How can these things be possible? They know that they can just feed us bullshit every day because all they've ever fed us our whole lives is bullshit. We're used to listening to bullshit. We have a culture based on bullshit. One of the most important things of our culture is that we lie to our children about Santa Claus. Our whole culture, and don't forget, Santa, it really is the word Satan, just rearranged. Anagram of Satan. Pure mockery. And but yeah, here, let's go back and look at the post in 2017. So this is May 13th of 2017. So tomorrow, this post will be 4 years old. Been covering this stuff every day. I have posts from every single day, you guys, for almost 8 years straight. But WannaCry was the name of it was the WannaCry virus. This was the ransomware. Big news, May of 2017, but WannaCry was 99 like 13, and I showed how WannaCry and 13 have this perfect overlap. And now, again, realize that today's hack coming in Alabama, and people who follow my work know how much I talk about Alabama and 13, especially those who follow in the world of sports, because we're always talking about Alabama football 13 rituals. Remember when Trump said he was going to the Alabama championship on January 3rd, and 13's the sixth prime, and of course Nick Saban won his sixth championship at age 66, 666, and then the next NFL season, Bill Belichick did the same thing in the same stadium, winning his sixth championship at age 66. And remember, you guys, Satan equals 55. The highest degree of the Satanic Church is Mega, M-A-G-A. It's the fifth, the five-pointed star. Again, you guys, this stuff's all in plain sight. People just don't want to see it. But this is what it is. The Jesuits are wolves in sheep's clothing. No doubt it's by the way, with all the 56, no doubt it's the Jesuits who created the Church of Satan as well. It's got the gematria 56 like Society of Jesus, 70 like Vatican and Francis. And remember, it was founded in San Francisco, named after St. Francis of Assisi, just like Pope Francis. And don't forget, Pope Francis 122 with the most simple cipher, like San Francisco, which is on the 122nd meridian. And when you write out satanic, it's 122, like abortion. And what day was Roe v. Wade? It was January 22nd. And who runs the court? Pretty much the church. Again, you guys, I mean, it really is all in plain sight. And I know I'm skipping around, but still, there's just so many examples you can just dip into where it's like, you got to be brain dead to think that you need some expert to tell you that's not a coincidence. Spiritual knowledge, a spiritual entity that's gone demonic, the Catholic Church, out for power and control, which they've been on for a very long time. I mean, centuries, thousands of years, here we are. This is what it looks like. The military-industrial complex that was warned about by Eisenhower. Think about it. The Jesuits, a military order, with the Templar Cross, a military order that serves the Catholic Church. The U.S., a nation that began with a genocide of natives, where the majority of propaganda to back the genocide was based on an incident that happened on March 22nd, first of all in history, if you didn't know that. 322, look it up. There was a genocide of a small town of settlers, and it was blamed on natives. And then out of that event came all these propaganda about how the natives did it, even though there was no survivors, so how can anybody know? But all this propaganda came out about how the natives were godless heathens without their Bibles, and they needed to be eradicated, and that's exactly what happened. Essentially a holy war of its time against the Native Americans based on a town of 30-some people that was murdered without a survivor. So, again, you just see how all through, and that's what I say, the people who rule the world are those kind of people, the kind of people that would go in. See, they people probably didn't even see it coming, They probably thought this other group of people was their friends, but actually they showed up that day not to be friends, but to kill them, to start their propaganda spread of how we need to get rid of the Native Americans because they're evil, godless people without Bibles that'll just murder your whole village. And somebody out there could argue and say, well, how do you know it didn't happen? Okay, maybe it did happen, but don't you see the same pattern all throughout history with the same numbers, the same dates? Go back and look up the incident I'm talking about. You'll see it was March 22nd. Out of that whole thing, that's where the name Virginia came from. There was never any idea to create a state name or an identity name. People just saw themselves as like settlers in the land across the big ocean, But then all of a sudden, after the genocide, the supposed murder of the people, they said, you know what? We're Virginianers. We're going to kill these godless heathens. And then you got Maryland and Virgin Mary, Catholic Church holding the land in D.C., And again, March 22nd, 322, like Genesis 322, knowing good and evil, like how it was simulated at Pentagon Maskell, October 24th, 2000, 322 days before 9/11, that a plane would fly into the side of a Pentagon, 322. 322 days later, buildings come down, big explosions at the Pentagon, field in Pennsylvania, New York, and next thing you know, we're off fighting people in the mountains of Afghanistan and Iraq. Did they even really have anything to do with what happened that day? 322. Same numbers all throughout history. Bible, Genesis 322, Numbers. I don't know how people can't put it together. So, again, do I need to talk about 56 anymore, you guys? I wrote a book about 56. Do I need to talk about it anymore? I'm saying the Jesuits clearly, that's what I lay out in the book. It's clear to see. Jesuits have built the world as we know it. The Arab League, all the Middle East divided up after both World Wars. After World War II, divided up even more. The Arab League formed March 22nd, 322, 1945. Peace in the Middle East. Always peace in the Middle East. Why can't there be peace in the Middle East? It's because you got the Crusaders still tormenting the Holy Land. As long as the evil, runs the world, which the church does, nothing's going to change. It's just going to get worse. You see how their book ends. I'm pretty sure they wrote Revelation. Revelation, when you read it, it's just like, this doesn't feel like the other part of the Bible. It feels like somebody else wrote this. And again, if you've read Revelation, what's that to look forward to? That's why I'm like, are people who want to be a part of this religion, have you read this book? Are you sure this is your vision of the world? You think for Jesus to return, the world has to essentially be destroyed? I don't know. Maybe it is true, but I don't know why you would want to believe that without any evidence. And I see that these people want to lead us to destruction and make us think that's all normal. And you see how perfect it is. If I'm right about what I'm saying that's the perfect religion. If you got a bunch of people believing that the world's just going to be destroyed anyway, and all they can do is just maintain their belief and say their prayers and put money on the plate every weekend at the church. That's kind of like, I see the advantage of doing that to people. It's not good for humanity, but I see why it'd be that way. And then as they see the world get worse and worse, which they have planned for us because they've planned out all this, and again, it's like people have submitted to the perfect plan. They're just believing in the plan from the authority, and they're only believing because the authority told them. And you see the authority believers, how they always are. They're always the same way. I upload the video of, the clear spray in the sky and how the sunlight is engaging with that. And I'm saying, this kind of stuff did not happen, but now it's almost a daily occurrence because of the spray. And, last night I happened to be in a more beautiful spot than I normally am. I'm saying this would be a good day to just upload the video in front of the beautiful nature with the ugly chemical sky. And then, some idiots leaving paragraphs like, those are contrails, you moron. People like you are so dumb. It's just like, God, I'm so sick of that person, man. I've been talking to that person for over well over 10 years now. I mean, it was like around, I forget when it was. It's definitely been more than 10 years. It was easily around 2010 where I started to notice a definite upsurge in the amount of trails in the sky that were hanging around all day and turning the blue sky gray. I mean, it just wasn't happening like that at that rate to notice it. But ever since that time, there's been people like, oh my God, that's a contrail. I'm just like, no, in the same day, we'd be out at a ballpark, and I'd say, look, that jet's going over, leaving the trail, and it's disappearing right behind. And then look at that one. That one's crisscrossing the sky, and its stuff's just staying up there. And I said, look how it's dissipating out, and it's, you're out there for 3 hours playing some back-to-back ball games, and you're saying, look what I told you 3 hours ago. It's like, well, whatever, man. Conspiracy theory. It's just like... And now look, it's like it's way worse than it was in 2010. It's just way more persistent. It's like back then I saw what I called a Kembo, like, I don't know, once every 4 months. Now I feel like I see a Kembo almost every day. There were no when you saw a rainbow as a child, it was the day where it rained and then the clouds parted and the sun came through and the beautiful rainbow. That was the only time you were seeing rainbows. I grew up outside. I'd remember if there were just big circles around the sun that looked like rainbows in the middle of the day when there hasn't been any rain anywhere. No. Never before did the jet that left a line that would always disappear shortly after. Never before were rainbows coming off of that. That's why it's so annoying, these people who sit there and watch TV and then they come back and regurgitate to you exactly what they learned on the TV. Because the TV did get on a little streak there for a while where they were really going after people who were talking about chemtrails and chemical skies. Now these people are just conspiracy theorists who are confused about contrails. This guy's telling me it's ice crystals on an 80-degree day. No, it's not ice crystals on an 80-degree day, and you just see that it's not weather sensitive. This stuff's going on in the summer, the winter. It's going on at all times. You mean it's not 80 degrees a few thousand? Or just like the guy was saying, it's not freezing a few thousand feet up? Yeah, it's not freezing a few thousand degrees up when it's a hot 80-degree day, man. I'm sorry. It's not that much colder. Those clouds weren't, it's just... People just make all these excuses to not see what's going on in this world. It is so obvious. There are so many agendas right in front of our face. And again, it's just like the point I made. The discussion of climate change, we documented this. We talked about this earlier this year. The push for the discussion of climate change began in 1965. 65 is when this became a big topic. 56 years before 2021. And climate change is 56. Remember, Pope Francis wrote his encyclical about what to do about coronavirus and climate change. Coronavirus is also 56. And it was called Fratelli Tutti, which is 56. And don't forget, Pope is 56, and the Jesuits served the Pope. Again, Society of Jesus is 56. The face of the whole pandemic, Anthony Fauci, 56. The other one, Cuomo, the 56th governor of New York who went to Fordham, whose brother's Chris Cuomo, who's on CNN, who was sick with the virus on TV for weeks. And then you got Gavin Newsom, who again said 56% would get coronavirus. And you got Boris Johnson, who did his million 56 rituals. He's still 56. He'll turn 57 in June, which will be interesting because England's 57. But, yeah, and that's the thing, too. Just having the two bad barbershop brothers as the leaders in the UK and the US, and they're both from New York, and people can't see what's going on, and their birthdays are almost identical. Trump's is June 14th, the flags. His is June 19th. I mean, it's just like, come on, man. The Geminis, the twins. I mean, who has hair like that? Okay. So we're coming back to just the stuff they were talking about in 2017. Notice cyber attack 188, WannaCry virus, what it was called 188, Bavarian Illuminati 188. Just talking about all the 13 stuff they're encoding. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. Don't forget the Bavarian Illuminati was established on a date with 99 numerology with 13 families. 1069 like 169, which has a square root of 13. Again, zeros don't matter in numerology when they're in the middle of a number. And We got another type of virus now. We got a computer guy, Mr. Computer Virus, telling us what to do about our human bodies, with our human bodies, about viruses. Of course, Bill Gates, born on Jonas Salk's birthday, on the day. Bill Gates turned 1 year old the day Jonas Salk turned 42, which happened to be 42 weeks after Elvis' birthday that year, and he got his polio vaccine on live TV, which was October 28 in the year 56. And I'm pretty sure that's why Bill Gates is the face of vaccines, operating out of Washington, the 42nd state, when vaccine equals 42. New Mexico also equals 42, where he first set up Microsoft before he came to Washington, the 42nd state. And, of course, computer and internet are 42. From computers to vaccines. But, yeah, just all this stuff they encoded. You know, these posts are from 2017. This one posted at 10:44. Nice. So this one was 46 days after the last major. So that's funny. It's okay. I did not mean to do that on purpose. I did not realize that it was exactly 4 years ago today that what was when that news broke, May 12th. But it was 46 days later that the next one happened. And again, virus and ransomware are 46, and it had the malware hero and malware and hero are 46. Again, you guys, what are the odds of all of that adding up? Virus 46, ransomware 46. What was it? Malware? That's what it was. Malware. No, what was it? Hold on. Malware 46. Wait a minute. I screwed that one up. So I wrote that down, but it looks like malware wasn't pointed to the list. But hero definitely was. Hero's a simple 46. But virus, ransomware, and hero were all 46, and then the next one was 46 days after the last. Again, and by the way, and think about that too, because it was May 12th, the 132nd day of the year, right? And Catholic's 46, and Catholic Church is 132. So the first one on the 132nd day of the year, where Catholic and Catholic Church come together with the 46 and 132, and then 46 days later another, and that was June 27th. That's the day leaving 187 days left in the year. That's what I thought. And again, just going right back to the Jesuits. Society of Jesus, 187. Holy Roman Empire. Remember, Holy Roman Empire is 187. It's also 218, and supposedly it ended on August 6th, 1806, which was the 218th day of the year. And notice it's got the 74 in it, like Roman. And we started with the 74s and what was improbable. But, yeah, again, there's a lot of old posts. But do double check my work. I mean, I don't put things by maybe malware's 46 in one of the non-base ciphers. Or maybe I just did a typo there. I screwed something. Oh, I bet you I meant to write malware tech. I bet you anything that's what I meant to write. And I would just, I forgot the tech part. That's what it was. Malware tech. So the hero was a malware tech, right? And then that's got the 188, like cyber attack and whatever the name of the virus was. Again, we just went over all this. But yeah, things stick in my head once I say them enough times. I'm sure at the time when I was covering this, I had it all. But again, you just see. It is the same undeniable stuff. And by the way, with this all having to do with money, I forgot to make the most important point. The 188 encoded all over all this, again, the U.S. dollar bill denominations. The 1, the 2, the 5, the 10, the 20, the 50, the 100, they add up to 188. And notice in CNN's write-up on today's incident with the attack, they're saying this is screwing up, the economy in a big way, kind of like what just happened with the Suez Canal. And like we showed, the Suez Canal, we even had the date that it would make sense for it to end because Suez Canal is 102, and the day it ended was 102 days after the Pope's birthday. And there was some more 102s in there, but again, 102 is real big with the Jesuits. Again, you guys, Art of War, which was translated by a Jesuits 102, and they're stamping this number all over these major wars that are clearly their rituals all throughout history, not to mention, again, World War is 102. Again, Spanish flu, 1918 out of World War I, 102 years later. The war on germs, the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. But again, just all wars being bankers' wars. And the war on germs, very much like a world war, a lot of money being borrowed from governments, huge sums of money to pay for the fight against the germs, right? Instead of the terrorists or the Nazis or the communists or whatever, the people guarding the opium fields, because we need that heroin over here. By the way, if anybody has HBO Max, I just figured out a way to watch HBO Max for free. I don't want to put it all out there. I'll probably take down the video, but they have, if you can figure out a way to watch HBO Max, they have, I think it's, I'm not sure how many part series it is, because honestly I only watched like the first 10 minutes, but just the first 5 minutes is all you really need to watch. They have a series on addiction and heroin and opium, but it starts, it has this really cool introduction in the 5 minutes that just goes through history real fast, from the time of the Egyptians to Alexander the Great to the Romans and the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church supposedly waged war against opium. But it goes through this historical timeline, but it just shows you all these, and again, take everything with a grain of salt, but still it just reminds you how all of these empires have really, truly been centered on opium and making wealth and controlling people from opium. And again, right now you got a nation of addicts, big pharma, call them big shots. And yeah, so anyway, just all these things to think about here. But of course, 201, the big number with the Jesuits, the bombing of Gaza, Monday, May 10th, was 201 days after Netanyahu's birthday, the leader there. It was a date with 56 numerology, if you've read my new book. Again, there's a part in here where I bring the connection together with 201 and 56 through Genesis 3:22, knowing good and evil, and the Holy Bible. But again, they're going to say at least 56 killed. I mean, they're just putting their stamps on things, you guys. The 3 planes that hit targets on 9/11, Flight 11, Flight 77, Flight 175, added up 263, the 56th prime. Again, Jesuits putting their stamps on things with just the same numbers, paying tribute with the same numbers again and again. And today in the headlines on May 12th, a warning of full-scale war. Remember, I said expect big war headlines this year. War equals 21, Army 21, Jesuit 21, Evil 21, Bible 21. Just how important this number is. It's 2021. What was the first huge military ritual of the year? February 1st, 2-1. And realize, when you write out February, it's got that 42 in it. Look at war, right? 2142. Look at Jesuit, 2142. So the first day of February, 2-1, right? The Burmese military overthrows the makeshift government that had been in power since September 27th. And I got to go back and double check what year it was. But September 27th, which is the day in history the Jesuits were recognized by Rome. And again, the Jesuits are the New World Order, and they control all sides of all things in a lot of nations. You got to control the opposition. They're making sure they control the people of the world. They are masters at their craft, and they do it by this code every single day. Again, who else could you trace this to? The calendar is synced up with the English language. There is zero doubt about this if you have a brain and you apply any form of statistical analysis to what we show every single day. I mean, this is 8 years straight. You have, what is 8 times 365? And there'd be a few more days because of the leap years, but I mean, I cannot do math right now. But it's close to 3,000. You have 3,000 days of pretty much straight proofs of showing how every day the news is lined up by the numbers. You have to put a lot of time to debunk what's been shown. This is way beyond any coincidence. You can't just plug in anything and get what number you want because you have this base system of ciphers. I don't know why so many people just blurt that out and think they've said something that doesn't make any sense. You know? You can't make these rituals line up every day, day after day, the way they do. Impossible. And again, just to flaunt the same numbers over and over too. But here, Today, this headline comes on the 132nd day of the year. I've been saying it's so clear that the Jesuits and the Catholic Church are behind the world wars. That's what my newest book that I'm working on is about. And that's also why I realized that I don't need to just hurry up and put it out right away, because if I just sit back and watch what's going on, the book I'm working on, I might even decide to wait until the end of 2021 to put it out, because people aren't going to wake up anytime soon, and there's going to be a lot of big stuff this year. And it's nice to just be able to document it as it goes along, because again, it provides the power to potentially wake up the sleeping masses, which is the goal every day. But again, Israel was established on May 14th. Realize this week, whoops, I wrote the wrong word. This week, all this is going on in Israel is the week of its 73rd birthday. 73 is the 21st prime, which will be Friday, May 14th, 14/5. Remember, Catholics 145. And in the Jewish section of the Bible, Israel's, right, the nation for the Jews after the World War and the Holocaust and the Nazis and all that. But May 14th, 14/5, like 145, the Jewish section of the Old Testament in the Catholic Bible has 145 chapters, right? Has 145 more chapters than the Protestant Old Testament. The Protestant Old Testament has 929 chapters, and the Catholic Bible has 145 more, so 929 plus 145. That's how many chapters in the Catholic Old Testament, which is the Jewish section. And again, think about it. The Catholics are behind the world wars, instigating the world wars, so that looks like so essentially they could divvy up and control the Middle East the way they have, keep everybody on lockdown. That's what Gaddafi was speaking about before he got killed. And if you go back and watch Gaddafi's speech, he's talking about, he's essentially putting some entity out there that could take any of them out next, just like they did with Saddam, because he was saying it's wrong what they did to Saddam. He was the leader of his nation, and he wasn't responsible for some of the things he was blamed for, and another country could blame us for something we didn't do, and then they could also kill us. We could be next. Well, Gaddafi ended up being next. But if you go back and watch that, and that's still even on YouTube. You can still find that on YouTube. I believe it was 2010, Gaddafi 2010. You'll know when you find it. The clip's probably around 15 minutes long, him giving his speech, and you'll notice how every time he's talking about who could be next, well, almost every time, the camera will go from him to the leader of Syria, who's still the leader, who the election's May 26th for Syria. Syria's election's May 26th. By the way, that guy's birthday is September 11th, the leader of Syria. But the camera kept zooming in on him while Gaddafi was talking about who could be next. Gaddafi ended up being next himself. But we'll see. The Syria thing's still an ongoing story. But remember, Catholic, all the gematria of it's so important. 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament, 145 more chapters. JFK, the 35th president, killed at age 46. The only Catholic before Biden who became number 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. Remember, the election was called for Biden November 7th, 353 days after his birthday, the 71st prime. And then all the votes were tallied in D.C. on January 7th. Everything was confirmed the day after the insurrection on the date that could be written 7/1. And again, just Jesuit rituals all the way through. Remember on that same day that the election was called for Biden, that was the day Elon Musk was declared the richest man in the world, and it was the 78-year anniversary of the death of Nikola Tesla, and Tesla's 78 like Jesuit. But again, just all these examples. Anyway, today on the 132nd day of the year, full-scale war could be next. And notice the gematria full-scale war. It's got 191 like Society of Jesus, 74 and 43 like Jesus Christ, 133. There are things I've forgotten about this number, 133, but a big one is government. Government, president got that 133. Talking about that in a big way in 2015 with Trump, how we thought right at the beginning of his campaign, they foreshadowed he'd be the next president. We were dead on about that. It was the 133. But again, it's the Jesuits behind all this, and big Jesuit emphasis on the headline, the numbers behind the words. And Gaza's 73, and again, Israel's going to turn 73 Friday. And 73 against the 21st prime. War, Army, Jesuit, Evil, Bible, it's all 21. And by the way, there's 73 books in the Catholic Bible altogether. The only thing that's different in the Catholic Bible is the Old Testament, the Jewish section. And isn't that interesting to think about? 46 instead of 39. By the way, with regards to this nation, you guys, the United States of America, one of the things I've always pointed out about this nation with Jewish gematria is it's 929, like how many chapters are in the Old Testament. And then in the most pure cipher, United States is 40 and Old Testament is 40, right? In the most pure cipher. Mathematics is 40, the numerology of 40 is 4, the fourth book of the Bible is Numbers. Remember, because I've put a lot of stock into this and been correct consistently from following it and understanding it, we were able to say long before any of this happened why 2020 would be a bad year. But then another confirmation was when we realized Acts 7:6 and Acts 7:7 about the 400 years of slavery, and Acts 7:6, and then how that 400-year period's up. In Acts 7:7, the nation responsible gets punished. And Acts 7:7, United States is 77, right? But words like slave, Negro, Rasta, Blues, they're all 76. Barack Obama, 76. Barack just put out his book, A Promised Land, which is 59 and 76, just like slave. Remember, his Secret Service name was Renegade. Again, his dog, Bo, just died in the ritual synced up with his 59th birthday. Again, Renegade's 59. Bo is 17. 59's the 17th prime. Renegade's dog, Bo, dies. Exactly 277 days after Obama's 59th birthday, where 277's the 59th prime and 59's the 17th prime. And it does remind that Neo the Matrix pointed out that Ted Kennedy... Actually, you know what? I got to show you guys what Neo the Matrix found out. Neo the Matrix did a killer addition to the Bo dog death. Actually, you guys, just look at the base gematria of Bo. Okay, you see how it's 8 in the most pure cipher? He died on May 8th. You see how it's 37? 37's the 12th prime. He died at age 12. And then the whole 17, 59, 277 thing. So 3 out of the 4 ciphers hit with the Bo ritual. But look at how timed out it is. This is how well planned out it was. Neo the Matrix had the killer comment right here. And there's just the birthday spacing. But Neo the Matrix pointed out this. So Ted Kennedy died on August 25th, 09, which was the 237th day of the year. And now the dog that he gave to Obama as a gift died on the day leaving 237 days left in the year. And remember, 237 is the prime factorization of 42. 2 times 3 times 7 is 42. Those are all prime numbers, 2, 3, and 7, which means they can't be divided by any other numbers besides 1. And we all, if you haven't read my first book, 18th chapter is about how they always bring 42 and 59 together in race. Remember, Barack Obama's 181 in Jewish gematria, the 42nd prime number, and his birthday is 181 days before the start of Black History Month, and Black History is 181. February is 42. But 4259 encoded into this ritual through the 237, but still, just the fact that they got the dog on the 230, or no. They got the dog from Ted Kennedy, and he died on the 237th day of the year, and now Bo dies on the day leaving 237 days left in the year, and then it reminds a bit of Bo Biden, the son of Joe Biden, who died at age 46. Of course, Obama's vice president was Joe, and Bo died in 2015, so Obama was still president back then, but, what was the point I was just going to make? Oh, yeah. Ted Kennedy's the brother of John F. Kennedy. And notice, John F. Kennedy, 59. Joe Biden just won the 59th presidential election while Obama was 59. And remember, Obama's big thing was Obamacare 59. And you think about it. That had to do with, a lot of people said, well, the reason I don't want government involved in my health care is because I don't like the way government handles anything. And you see now government, now they're even dictating to us more and more. I mean, you want to be a part of our society, you're going to need to go out and get the big pharma vax is the way it's looking here pretty soon. Unless you want to live in Coventry. I might have to move to South Dakota, but you know it's going to be a federal agenda. But anyway, you guys, the point is all this stuff is so sick, but it's also mathematical and also clearly by this code, you know? And it's mockery. It is mockery every day. Every day. So with regards to the Jesuits running the show, you know, here's CNN's story today. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2021 inductees are, and their picture for it's Jay-Z, Rockefeller Records. Remember Rockefeller's 56, like Society of Jesus, like Washington, D.C., where that family's been big for a long time. Family that got into vaccines. They went from the oil industry to philanthropy to vaccines, kind of like Bill Gates went from computers to philanthropy to vaccines. But Rockefeller's 56 and the most pure cipher, like Society of Jesus, again, his first record label, which became big after the death of Notorious B.I.G. Remember, Notorious died in 97, Notorious 97, Death 97. He died on March 9th, Biggie 39, New York 39. Anyway, look at this picture they choose of Jay-Z. They choose it from September 27th, 2014. Come on, man. September 27th? The day the Jesuits were recognized by Rome, and we're saying it's clear as day, the Jesuits control the world of mainstream hip-hop. You know, all the Jesus rituals they do with rappers. And I see LL Cool J's getting in here. The Musical Excellence Award. Remember, DMX News, April 3rd, was totally synced up with LL Cool J's 4321 song featuring DMX, because the DMX News was on 4/3/21. 79 days after LL Cool J's birthday. And just to remind you, LL Cool J in the most simple cipher is 79. The word vegetable is 79 because they said DMX was in a vegetative state. It's like a vegetable. And the word murder is also 79. And then the Jesuits have that number with them too. Remember, the pandemic was declared on Anthony Fauci's 79th day of being 79 years old. And Anthony Fauci is 56 and 187, where Society of Jesus is. See how they do it? And if you notice, Washington, D.C. is the exact same as Anthony Fauci in every cipher. 137, 56, 187, 61. Okay. And there's a lot more that can be said about all those numbers, but again, not a coincidence. Okay, so what else is going on? I did a lazy decode on that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Have at it. You can measure with Jay-Z and all that. I haven't done any of it. I just saw that they put up the picture, and I just thought, come on, man. And then think about this, too. On the 56 date numerology, COVID vaccine 56, coronavirus 56, Monday, with the 56 date numerology, Pfizer's vaccine got approved by the FDA, the emergency authorization. And now, here we are 2 days later, and here's one of CNN's top stories today. Kids are making up a larger proportion of COVID cases now, CDC says. Remember, the CDC's for-profit and represented by the pharmaceutical industry. So now, and don't you hate how when, for all the people who are getting their videos taken down saying that we're violating the CDC's guidance, wait a minute, why the CDC is not even a federal entity? Are you telling me the CDC is more important to big tech than the Constitution? And that's a rhetorical question because obviously the answer is yes. But I mean, seriously, throughout much of the pandemic, they've said that children are mostly safe from the virus, which didn't make any sense because normally young children are vulnerable to deadly illness because their bodies aren't as mature. But, you know, the whole time they've said it's not really such a big deal for kids, and I'm sure that's because they didn't want to stress out the moms of the U.S. too much. They might have all slit their wrists at once. Who knows? A lot of TV watching moms, way too caught up in the propaganda, who still haven't figured out that it lies to them every day and controls them with fear, which is so easy to do, especially with women. But now, right after the vaccine is approved for children, now all of a sudden we have a story where all of a sudden children are making up a bigger proportion of the cases. I mean, it's just so frustrating because again, you shouldn't. Nobody should have ever have had to pay so much attention and do so much research to even figure out gematria and this is what's going on every day. I mean, none of this should be happening, but everything is so obvious in terms of mockery, and that's what I hate about this nation. You know, there was once upon a time where it was 2001, and I was watching 10 straight days of news of terror alerts, trying to figure out like how people aren't seeing through this, and then there'd be a break on the 11th day, And instead of talking about all the terror alerts and terror threats all over and the latest scare here and there, it would be a missing blonde girl in some part of the country, and maybe she'd take up 48 hours of the news cycle, and then we'd be back to terror alerts. And I'd be like, wait a minute. People are watching the news and believing this, and they seriously thought that the last 48 hours, this missing blonde girl was more important than supposedly all the threats emerging each day while we're on orange and red and yellow and we need to look out. I mean, it's just, everything is so, it's just such obvious bullshit every day, and people cannot put it together. Wow, what a coincidence. Now, kids, wow, you know what it is? Bill Gates is way smarter than me, and same with all the other people in the vaccine world, and they must have known it was about to hit kids harder, so they got it out just in time. Take that, conspiracy theorist. That's why I hate those conspiracy theorists, man. They just can't come to the logical conclusions about how smart the controllers are and how they're looking out for all of our interests and making the best use of our tax dollars. And I mean, it's just like, no, idiot. How can you have these thoughts? Don't you see how the world just gets shittier and shittier? Oh my God, man. By the way, Gematria Effect Sports, Jonathan and I did a live stream late last night. Quickly went over the death of Colt Brennan right before the running of the Colts in Baltimore at the Preakness. And remember, we just had a player drafted by the Colts, Sam Ellington, taken 218th overall in the draft, and then 218 days after his birthday, 5 days after the draft, his brother's dead. But he was drafted by the Colts, and that news was in the week leading up to the Preakness in Baltimore, where the Colts are originally from, in the NFL. And then days later, Colt Brennan's dead. And again, you guys, it's just like, I mean, the only reason they get away with what they do is because it's a brain-dead society. Everything's a coincidence. You know, Chadwick Boseman dead on Jackie Robinson Day and the birthday of Jack Kirby, who wrote the Black Panther, that's a coincidence. The fact that Jackie Robinson was in the Black Panthers in World War II is a coincidence. You know, everything's a coincidence. That's why, again, that's why we have all the evidence and all the facts and continue to prove the worth of the work and the coincidence theorists. You know, here's a real story. In Tucson, Arizona, there's a mailman, Big Al, who goes in and is often bragging and gloating about his latest betting slips and how much more he won off this small bet by knowing this. And he's been doing this for years, and the majority of his coworkers around him think he's just a lucky person. That's how they describe what's happening. They're saying, you're just getting lucky. That gematria is just the coincidence. He's going, what don't these idiots get? I gambled my whole life. I wasn't lucky. I didn't win. I learned gematria. Now I win and supplement my salary very nicely. And I'm trying to show the people around me how they can make more than the post office wage in their spare time too, and they don't want to listen. Now, fortunately, now here at the same time, a real thing that's also happening out of the Big Al story is Leo, who runs the Truth Over Fear channel that's now getting censored. Him and Big Al are both in Tucson. They both linked up. They're now both pounding pavement with megaphones. And they even went to the track after pounding some pavement and bet on the Kentucky Derby on Medina Spirit, and both won several $1,000s. Some nice pocket change. All from just seeing how simple it is. Everyone's picking up sevens. Bob Baffert can get his 7th Kentucky Derby. And now look, every time you turn on ESPN, they're talking about how Bob Baffert's like Tom Brady. We've been talking about how Bob Baffert moves just like Tom Brady by the numbers for years and winning off it. You know, it's just... But again, you can't fix stupid, you guys, and the majority of the world is stupid. Anyhow, this young man dead at 37 on a 37-date numerology and found dead 97 days before his 38th birthday. Of course, death is 38 forwards, 97 in reverse. They're saying fentanyl is the cause of the death. Fentanyl, 97 and 38. It's also got the 119 in it. And he was known for being a boss in college with the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, 119. So... his name had fateful gematria. Colt Brennan, 118, like death and homicide in Jewish gematria. 46 and 62 in the same ciphers. 179 is the 41st prime. And you know what? I see why they did that. Baltimore's 41 in the most pure cipher. Just like how we had the shooting on May 8th in Baltimore with 4 dead, 1 injured was the headline. And Again, that was 1 weekend before the Preakness. By the way, in Colorado, I need to look more into the Colorado shooting because they're saying that happened on like Preakness Avenue or something. It's like, are you kidding me, man? Preakness Avenue? But notice the Baltimore shooting on 5/8. Again, Gematria. 4 dead, 1 injured. Baltimore 41 of the most pure cipher, 5/8. And then Medina Spirit, who's the favorite horse who just won at the Derby, it has 9-5 odds for the race in Baltimore. And the news about it being potentially doped up or, cheating with the medicine, whatever they did to kill pain, that news broke on May 9th. The date can be written 9/5. Again, just the other week, Orioles won big on a Sunday. I always teach my people to watch out for a good Orioles riddle on Sunday because the Orioles upset a lot of teams on Sunday in the time that they've historically sucked. And just the other weekend, they dropped a team that was a big favorite over them to 14-8. Orioles upset them. The team fell to 14-8 against Baltimore on a Sunday. Again, when you study this work through the lens of sports, see, sports is really the most amazing way to use this knowledge. You don't even have to gamble on it. You can just study. You can just study each day. You can see what they do with the same rituals over and over. Again, just like what we were saying with Russell Westbrook. Triple-double, 139. 139 days after the NBA season begins, Russell Westbrook sets the triple-double record, and then triple-double 58. And he tied the record on May 8th, 2 days before setting the record on the 130th day of the year with Washington. And notice, all those ciphers, what we just talked about is on the left side of the code. Those numbers on the left are better in sports than the ones on the right, but you still want to be aware of all of them. The classic ciphers, that blue cipher is where it's really at. That blue cipher, just always on point. But here, let me close some slides. I am disoriented. I think my mind, again, is just like, I've just been grinding too much. I think my mind is wearing out, and I'm getting older. But hold on, I feel like I got Alzheimer's today. Let me make sure I got through everything. Oh, yeah. Now all of a sudden the numbers shooting way up now that the vaccine's out for them. Someday I'm going to have the truth virus on here. I like the way he covers these headlines. He doesn't need to decode them. He just gives some dead-on analysis. Okay, I was just plugging in the greater tie with Colt Brennan having the 179 in his name, the 41st prime before the running of the Colts in Baltimore this weekend. Yeah. It is a sick, messed up world, man. And I just hate how the parents it just shows you it's families, man, but that's what I've been telling you. That's why the families are all complicit in it, too. These are sick, fucked up people, you guys. I think that's why nobody speaks out in the world of entertainment. They just know what's going on. This is what they signed up for, to be rich and famous. They know this is what comes with it. If you speak out, it probably gets a lot worse for you. So, but again, it's just so obvious what's going on. That's why the families are always on board. And, oh, yeah, he had a little bit of an addiction problem. Oh, is that what happened? Is that what happened here? Maybe his little bit of an addiction problem you found embarrassing in your family, and his days of being a great quarterback were, 15 years behind him. So, time to get rid of the family embarrassment. Here's a good week for old Colt. But then at the same time, again, it's that other thing I'm saying. A lot of these athletes are like Manchurians and bred to be for what they are, and then it seems like their expiration's written in as well. He dies the week before the Colt race in Baltimore. I mean, come on. Right after the Colts draft pick's brother dies. And again, 218th pick, dead 218 days after his birthday, when we've already identified that as a very important number for years, largely thanks to the work of Zenith of the Alpha, who for years called into TFR about 218 in his latest 218 find. Took me about 3 or 4 more years to figure out that was all about the Holy Roman Empire, but it all makes sense now. Oh, by the way, Jose spotted a missing tiger that no one has seen since in Houston on May 9th. What do you think, you guys? You think it's a legit story? Jose saw the tiger that no one else saw on 5/9? And don't forget, Jose's 13 in the most pure cipher, like when Conor McGregor was building his reputation and he knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. No way, Jose. That was one of the sports headlines for the dopes. And also last night, Jonathan had a lot of interesting information. The one thing I reposted about that I wanted to really document was this man from the entertainment industry who collaborates with a lot of big-name artists, Timbaland, Future, 21 Savage. Reportedly on Mother's Day, he killed a young woman on 5/9. And every year, We got this black shaming on the 59 date. Seems like it's every year on May 9th. And that date could also be written 9/5. Jay Wright, his artist name that he goes by, is 95 as well. So, and again, it's just like we don't exactly know what's going on. These people keep getting framed, blamed, but they seem to go along with it. And my guess is the reason they go along with it is because they know this is the consequence that was coming at some point for the reward of being rich and famous and all that comes with it. And they know if they say anything, then it probably gets worse. You know those days where we read about like, okay, wait a minute, the mother and the son in the celebrity world died today? Her son died too? It's like maybe that's where you said something you weren't supposed to say. So now it's not only you, it's your son as well. Go back and cover a lot of these things we covered over the years. There's been plenty of stories like that. Loose lips sink ships. I mean, it's obvious. Again, who knows how many people... I'm sure, I got to assume that a lot of the celebrities I've called out over the years, I got to assume they've seen the videos. I got to assume a lot of them. You think somebody would speak up? Shout out to CeeLo. By the way, CeeLo Green from Goody Mob, from Gnarls Barkley, he shared our work on his Instagram page. Shout out to Jeff Young from Megadeth, who has been a regular contributor. I've been on his radio program many times. Shout out to Larry Johnson from the Kansas City Chiefs, who joined us for an episode of TFR in January of 2020, a couple weeks before the Super Bowl, where the Chiefs beat the Niners in the Joe Montana Bowl. Joe Montana 54, Red 54. It was the all-first. Again, just the stuff they do, you guys. Again, the AFC and NFC were tied at 27 Super Bowls apiece. It was Super Bowl 54, the first where both teams wore red. Joe Montana's former teams, he wore 19 for the Chiefs. It was the 2019-2020 season. The Chiefs won. And, yeah, again, people keep sleeping on this all they want, thinking it's a coincidence. It is just a bunch of dumb dummies. And here, speaking of dumb dummies, I'm going to watch a little bit of this. This video's been up for years. You know, in the time this video stayed up trying to debunk my work, my channel's been deleted 21 times. But again, I'm going to show you how this supposed debunk of my work actually proves my work even more true. But I'm going to pause as we go because we're just going to see how many fallacies are here and how many dishonest arguments. But here we go.
I am a reptilian. I'm sure this is news to many of you, but this is something that you should know about. I'm actually part of the Illuminati and I'm here to mislead the masses. And I can actually prove it too. Gematria is the idea of assigning a number to each letter of the alphabet.
Okay, before he gets into debunking Gematria, let's just pay attention to what he said at the beginning. I'm a reptilian, I'm in the Illuminati, I'm here to mislead people. And now he gets into his debunk of Gematria, right? But you'll see why he actually said this in a moment, and I'll point out why this is so stupid, but here we go.
And when we add up all the numbers in a word, we can actually find secret connections between other words that have the same number. The number for duck of truth in English gematria is 882, and it just so happens that the number for reptile host is also 882. And reptile host in Jewish gematria is 527, which is also the same number as the reptilians. So does that mean that I'm actually a reptilian, or is that just a coincidence? No. To both.
Okay, so again, I hate when people try to debunk my work this way because it never started this way. It started from recognizing that they were putting numbers into news stories, inserting them needlessly there, seemingly like how the Bible is. If you read the Bible, I mean, you should have a lot of questions about the numbers that are used. Why are the numbers so specific? Do they have a meaning? I've had the same question about the Bible and the news for the longest time since I was a child. And again, you know, just the most simple cipher. Why did the news media have to keep reporting that Adam Lanza weighed 112 pounds as if that was an important detail? Again, it's not that I was reporting that the news media weighed 112 pounds. I didn't even know what gematria was. I just said there's got to be something to this. And this wasn't the first story, but it was around this same time that I discovered gematria because it was just driving me nuts, the whole Sandy Hook thing. And remember, the other mass shooting that it was compared to in history, the Dune Blaine massacre, happened on March 13th, 96. which was 3 plus 13 plus 96, a date with 112 numerology. It was a targeting of first graders. They got gun rights taken away in the UK. Been a lot of legal changes. Gun rights haven't been taken away in the US, but there's been just a major push for that type of thing again. But there has been a lot of new legislation and background checks and blah, 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 and just essentially useless paperwork, bureaucratic crap. But anyway, 112 in both of them. And then remember, Adam Lanza's birthday is April 22nd. Here, Adam Lanza birthday. April 22nd. And what day is April 22nd? Well, it is the 112th day of the year, right? So these are the kind of things we've been documenting. It's not just Gematria, and it's not just like what he's doing here is he went in and he said, okay, my channel name is the same as Reptilian Host in a Gematria database. So let me see, does this mean something, or is this just stupid nonsense? And of course, he'll get to the point that, see, this is just all a bunch of stupid nonsense. But no, if you start from an untruthful point and try to debunk something based on a false argument that is not, again, if you're trying to debunk my work, which has never been that way, it's just a joke. And keep in mind, since that video was put up, how many more correct predictions about everything do we have since then? Like 1,000 at least? So, again, just realize from the beginning, disingenuous. And again, I mean, the two ciphers we started with. Oh, by the way, I should also point out, the Dune Blaine massacre was on the 73rd day of the year. Dune Blaine, 73. If you write out Adam Lanza, it's also 73. And Sandy Hook's on the 73rd meridian west. And the Dune Blaine massacre was on the 73rd day of the year. Again, 73 corresponds with sacrifice, and that's what it was in the UK. They lost their gun rights because of this mass shooting of first graders, supposedly, where I think the tennis player Andy Roddick was there and survived that day. I think that's part of the story. But their gun rights were sacrificed, essentially. And the word United, 73. United States, United Kingdom, rituals across seas. The Jesuits, first they infiltrate the UK, then they... the sun never sets on Britain because Britain's controlled by the Catholic Church that controls the world, and the US is very much part of their expansion. But anyway, here, let's listen to more of this guy's crap, and then we'll debunk some more.
So first I'm going to explain why Gematria doesn't hold any truth. And after that, I'll talk a bit about the psychology that makes people believe that it does. This psychology is also relevant in the field of paranormal, and I personally find it very interesting, so please bear with me. So I wrote a little program that does a few experiments with Gematria, and I'll walk you through the code real quick to show you how I came to these conclusions, and also so that people can't accuse me of making up lies to serve my reptilian agenda, of course. And to prevent this video from becoming boring, I'll also add a box with cute animals to keep you entertained. So we'll look only at English Gematria to keep it simple. We assign a number to each letter. A is 6, B is 12, C is 18, and so on. Then I import an English dictionary with about 335,000 words and assign a Gematria number to each of these words. Sounds like a lot of work, but for a computer it only takes a few seconds. And that's when we can start doing fun things with that information. The first thing I do is I see how many words each Gematria number has, I export it to CSV and make a graph out of that information. This is the result. I will link the graph as well as the code in the description below, by the way. But you can see an interesting pattern emerge, and you can also see that many words have the same number. The number with the largest amount of words is 558, with 2,934 words, and the average amount of words per Gematria number is 587, and that's sort of where the whole system falls apart. Some believe that evil organizations are using the system to communicate secret messages. But how can they possibly send accurate communication when there is ambiguity between, on average, 587 words? And you can be damn sure that someone...
Okay, so... First of all, he's saying there's 587 words on average in the English language that have the same numerical value. So, how many words are in the English language? Okay, so about 170,000 words, right? So, out of the 170,000 words, on average, about 578, or did he say 587? We'll use 587 just in case he said that. On average, 587 have the same value. So, let's see here. Online calculator. Okay, so 587 divided by 170,000 is 0.0034%. So if it was 0.1%, that would mean 10%. It would have a 1 in 10 chance. If it was 0.001, that would be a 1% chance. 1 in 100. So this is a 3 and 1,000% chance of having the same numerical value based on the numbers from his calculations. On average, there's 587 words in the English alphabet that have the same thing. So a very small chance of a word having the same value. And remember, with just a set like this, Jesus, cross, Messiah, gospel, parables, and I'm also going to write Joshua, because Joshua is the English translation of Jesus. All of those words have a clear relationship. That is what gematria is, the practice of coding numbers into words, numbers that have a clear relationship, that have the same numerical value. So Jesus and cross go together, Jesus the Christian Messiah, the story of Jesus the gospel, Jesus spoke in parables, all words that have a clear relationship. And again, the English translation of Jesus is Joshua. They're all 74. So, you mean to tell me that 0.0034% times 0.0034% times 0.0034% times... Again, think about how small this number is going to get. And let's just say that his data set is off. Let's say that he's way off. Let's say that this guy's a complete idiot and he even buried himself and he did his math wrong. Let's just say there's 5,870 words that have the same value. So we're multiplying times 10, right? 5,870 divided by 170,000. So this is way in his favor. But now you're at a chance that 3 out of 100 words would have the same matching value. 3 out of 100. So think about that in percentages. If you multiply 3 out of 100 times 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 3 out of 100, you're getting a very tiny number once again. Even with a data set that's not correct at all, but way screwed more in his argument's favor that this is all coincidental. So again, this guy is an idiot. He can't even do basic math. He might be able to do computer code and all this crap, but he can't even do basic mathematics. This stuff is improbable. And again, when I first started, and understand, I have an accounting degree. I'm not bad with math. I took several statistics class. I have a good enough idea about statistics to realize if something is within the realm of, or, wow, that is statistically significant. Gematria is, it couldn't be more statistically significant. Again, I don't know any other model that people are using in the world right now to more accurately predict things. It certainly isn't the weather. We're more spot on than the weather is. Way more. And, but again, he didn't come with anything. He just came with, okay, see, these things have the same numerical value. Does that mean there's a relationship? No, nobody ever argued that was the case. Nobody ever said that's what gematria is. Said it's about putting numbers together that have a matching value and a logical relationship. Not the name of my YouTube channel, Duck of Truth, and Reptilian Host. Never once was that ever argued that that's how gematria is being used. And his whole thing about, could they use it to code things that are meaningful? Okay, how about a simulation at Jesuit Georgetown on June 12th, 2020, 144 days before the November 3rd election, about President Biden winning. Do you think that could be understood clearly? Between a Jesuit network, a simulation at a Jesuit town, do you think that could be understood? Do you think they could pick up on the meaning of the ritual of the number 201 when that's part of their history, being saved by Catherine the Great out of Russia? By the way, where it looks like this piece of shit is from. Sorry, it's not that I have anything against Russian people, but again, a lot of the Jesuit history does go back to Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution, a lot of cryptos. Again, a lot of shit comes out of Russia. And I remember what I thought of Russians growing up. They were all a bunch of punks that stole your bike. Make sure your bike was locked up well if Russians were around, otherwise you're probably going to need a new one. And I'm sorry, I mean, that's just the way it was where I grew up. The Russian kids were punks. They liked to fight and steal shit. They were tough, though, and I realized they were smart, but their values were shit, man. The worst people I grew up around that I noticed in terms of like a group of people when I was growing up, Russians. Now most of the Russians I know are smart and computer savvy guys and probably working at Google, writing the algorithms, killing the truth community. Probably a guy like this. A guy like this probably great at Google, gets paid $300,000 a year to censor my channel, put out a video like this. Just Gematria debunked. Not even close. Not even close. And again, notice this video stays up in the age of censorship. Gematria channel does not. Imagine if my channel was up from day one. Just nothing but correct predictions to stream through. We could like literally watch for a month straight of correct predictions. So, anyway, I'm not going to watch anymore. But, again, if you don't want to get it, but again, 144th day of the year, can you get this one? The Jesuit-educated Trump next to the only Jesuit Pope, on the 144th day of 2017. Is that too much to grasp? How about Jesus Hominum Salvator 266, Pope Francis I, Jesuit Pope, the 266, speaking in Jesuit DC on the 266th day of the year? Do these things seem coincidental? Again, man, I mean, you got to be brain dead to say you've debunked Gematria. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So, okay. We'll leave it there. I got a radio show in an hour and a half. That stream went way longer than I meant for it to, but I guess I'll go do some exercises and eat some food and be right back. You got to move your body around when you sit this long. All right, Truth Seeker, until next time.